Hey, welcome. Enjoying your blended family. All the B-fams out there, holla. We are here on a Monday episode. And, you know, I really feel torn because I always say, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be great. I'm so excited. But I am.
I told him not to say that.
Yeah, she said, don't say something
She said,
different.
don't say that. And I said, I just can't help it. This one is one that if we, talking me and Scarlett as if we had this insight back when we still had our kids in our house living with us, starting our blended family 5 years in, 10 years in.
Back when we were locking kids in the room trying to make them safe.
If you missed that episode, go back one. Then how much power would we have had to be able to tweak the way we parented to connect better with our kids, to connect better with our stepkids? How much more could we have, how much faster could we have blended, really, you know, if we get down to it? But today, excited because we do have Riley with us again.
Hey-o.
If y'all don't know her, she is my biological child, and she is a beautiful, amazing young adult now. Super proud.
Wow, how honored.
Little mini-me twin over here.
Who she has become. But another cool thing that as we've been doing this blended family for now over a year, really building a blended family community of just kind of coming together, all of us, being able to hear her perspective. Yeah. Being able to start hearing some of our kids and the things that they were going through, the thoughts that they were thinking then, some of the revelations, the aha moments we've come from this and have shared with others. And then they've been like, oh, dang, I needed that. I didn't know. Or, man, I was wondering what was going on. Now I could do things a little different. But being able to really be able to hear it from a child's perspective when they're now a young adult looking back saying, wow, you know, this is what happened, or this is what I was thinking, this is what I was going through. You know, how much power can we have as parents whenever we hear stuff like that?
Yeah, to get that kind of insight is truly a treat for you guys. It's even a treat for us just to hear some of these things, because these aren't things you're usually sitting around talking about.
No.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we're so excited for this next one. They're so excited. I'm like, what's coming?
It's coming.
This is from a 23 facing to turn 24-year-old's mindset, who started her blended family really pretty early on, as far as her parents divorcing at what age?
Yeah, she was four when we kind of started the divorce process, so 4 or 5. Yeah.
And then 8 when we married. These thoughts that have been going on in her head, these questions that we have for her today, really, I mean, it's going to be stuff that we're probably hearing, maybe not for the absolute first time, but, you know, maybe with a different motive behind it. So.
Yeah, and she really hasn't had time to think about these questions. So I just briefly said right before I hit the record, hey, we're going to ask you these. And here we go.
I was like, okay.
So it's going to be great. Y'all stay tuned. So we're excited now coming back. It's like one of these that is like, Riley, we need to hear. We need to know. And to be able to
want to know.
The people want to know.
No pressure.
We're like tapping nails on a desk, sitting here saying, come on, we need this information. Yeah, I was, but I was tapping on paper, so you couldn't hear nothing. But yeah, no, so really this is just kind of going to be a conversation that we ask a few questions. We get your viewpoints of what you were going through in our blended family at that time. And then we'll see. Maybe it takes off in complete different directions.
And maybe I'll be an evil stepmother a little bit more.
But yeah, just kind of starting off though, you know, I love now kind of seeing where our family's at. We have blended so well now. We have seen the fruit from all the labor and the hard work that we've put into this. We had so many good times, good memories, and we've had a lot of rough ones. And one relationship I can say that I have just been blown away by, that I never would have thought I see it, is y'all's 2 relationship. The stepmom, the stepdaughter relationship. That seriously, you know, and it's one of those that is a challenge for a stepmom. You know, we're not bashing bio moms, out there. We're not bashing any of y'all's relationships with your biological kids by any means, because that is beautiful and that is so important in blended families. We need that relationship as well. Our kids need that relationship as well. We're just talking on the other side of it. We're talking on now the bonus parent, the step parent relationship, because that's the hard one. It's kind of like the outsider coming in trying to fit into a puzzle that you don't know how to connect it, and there's a lot of adversity coming in, and there's trying to figure out, well, how do we make this cohesive? How do we come together? And so there's many challenges. So yeah, just being able to see both of y'all's relationship now where it's at from where it came. I mean, it came from like no connection, pushing the stepmom away, the ugly, the hate, the stepmom forcing the connections and making things worse, and all this to where now y'all's relationship is beautiful.
And really, out of all the kids, like her and I have the most common sense of humor and things that we enjoy doing. So it is really funny to see how we could not embrace that or experience that in the beginning years, because there was so much tension in the household. But now to be able to be mature in our relationship and see the things that we laugh about and the things that we love doing together continues to connect us even more. But
yeah, we're kind of inseparable now. Love you too,
best friends.
Well, and it just brings to, we stayed the course, right? We stayed the course as a family when there were so many things coming at us where we could have thrown in the towel and said, I quit. This is too hard.
Yeah.
But when you push through, that's when you see the beauty. That's when you find the beauty.
Thanks for not giving up on me.
Oh, they had a hug moment. So, but really excited, Riley, today to talk and to be able to hear from you and to kind of get your perspective. So we're going to ask some questions. And like I said, I just read these over right before I hit the record button. So you really hadn't had time to think about any of it.
Yeah, not at all.
And we did that on purpose.
I'm kind of scared because I'm a thinker about questioner first. that didn't come out right at all.
Yeah, but we get the most real from you when you just really have those aha moments. So that's what we're what we're going for today. I think I know the first question. Can I ask the first question? Sure. Because he has them written down over there, but I have
She's
some in my
so excited. Okay.
She's like, oh, it's already.
So when, tell us your first memory of I'm part of a step family. When you first realized, okay, I have mom's house, dad's house, or I wish I was there, or I wish I wasn't here, or whatever that looks like. What is that very first memory for you?
Right off the bat, I can't pin down a specific memory, but I just remember the trauma of leaving, when or finally realizing that my parents were divorced was when we were in the U-Haul on the way to Texas from Alabama, and I just remember me as a little 5-year-old girl just crying my eyeballs out, because I finally realized that my parents are not getting together anymore. I'm actually moving away from my mom now, So I think that's the first realization of, I don't have a normal family kind of thing. And then, just all the plane rides. I've been riding on planes since I was
whole
5.
Life.
Yeah, should have been a flight attendant because I know all the signs.
You make a great flight attendant.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, flight attendant, you missed this one.
Yeah. Hold on, sit down. I got this.
Below the red nozzle on top of it.
And can you imagine? I mean, I remember being 30 something, maybe 35, when I had my first solo flight by myself and walking with my backpack going to visit my cousin in another state and thinking I am so cool right now. I'm flying by myself for the first time. To be a 5-year-old flying, not only from the parents' perspective of putting your kid on a plane unattended, and back then it was a little bit different because it's pre 9/11 and stuff, so you could go a little bit further back and stuff, but having that just to deal with that and then be on the receiving end of your child and that back and forth. But to be a child getting on this plane with no familiar, person around you,
well, she was not 5. She was a little older because, well, no, initially we would meet halfway whenever we did transition days, and that was like a 6-hour ride to a meeting point and then a 6-hour ride back home. And so we would do that for a little while.
6 hours, people.
So that, that was a challenge, and we did that for a little while until, we just got to a point where it's like, man, this is just really inconvenient for us. And so we started checking out, and just kudos Southwest. We used them.
Southwest is the best.
That's why you still fly Southwest.
Well,
there's some. They did a really good job then, and I can't speak for any of the other airlines, and this is by no means an airline pitch.
Hey, but Southwest, if you want us to sponsor,
that was a tough.
If you're hiring Southwest,
it was a tough thing for me being a parent and your mom, that putting you on a plane and being away from us, especially in the air, whenever you can have all these thoughts flying through your head. But they did a really good job at meeting you there and meeting us and all the checkpoints. And
they have a whole procedure.
They had a whole procedure, and they have a lady that sticks with you, and they come and you're introduced, at the very beginning before they even got on the plane. So it did bring more comfort. Of course, it was a little scary at the beginning, and then I think the more we did it, it's more like, this is just what we do, and I don't know, you may have a different viewpoint on that one, but
no, I don't remember ever being scared to fly. I just remember they had us wear little badges letting us know we were children flying on this flight, and they would sit us in the front. I felt like I was freaking queen getting treated by I got front row seating, I got a badge, it was pretty great. And then I remember I made friends with this one kid through my flying experience, and we kind of had the same route, and we would always meet each other, it
just worked out. Y'all were going the same time. Transition days were the same.
It was every time, and I knew the person's first name. We were we were friends. I don't think he actually cared anything about me, but to me it was oh my God, I have a friend that actually travels back and forth to the same place that I do, and is going through the same thing that I am. So shout out to Southwest.
Now I do remember, just to get a little bit more on that, although the flight experience wasn't a bad thing. Now once I did come in the picture, and experiencing transition days were hard on each end of that.
Oh, they were terrible.
As far as you leaving your mom, or you coming back and all of that. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I remember probably my earliest memories of that is I would just have so much anxiety about leaving. It was more, I had a lot more anxiety about leaving my mom's than I did my dad's necessarily, because I lived with him and I knew that I was always coming home to him. But for my mom, it was an extended period of time. I never knew exactly when I would see her again. I knew I would see her on school breaks and things like that. But, as a little girl, it's just always you miss your mom anyways, or you just long for that relationship. But I would have so much anxiety to where I would be throwing up on the plane, throwing up before leaving my mom's, just making myself so sick about leaving that I couldn't even function, or that my body was reacting to it as well. So the transition was hard. And then even coming back and settling back in home, I'm
remembering sometimes where we'll get the signs, because I'm extra, welcome home, Riley, at the airport.
Yeah.
And she just walk past us, ignore.
Oh yeah.
It was so hard, because it's that whole flight for me was so traumatic coming back, because I didn't know how to process my emotions, and I was leaving someone who meant the world to me, and things like that. And not saying that you don't mean the world to me.
No,
Dad.
sure.
You do.
No, I totally do.
But yeah, it was just so heartbreaking. And then coming back and almost facing reality. I always think of like that transition time, flying back and forth, was like I was going to my mom's, which was like this fantasy world. I always think of like Where the Wild Things Are is my favorite book, right? Okay, so I was traveling to the land of where the wild things were, and I had such a great experience. I got to bond with my siblings and things like that. And then coming back to reality was such a huge shocker every time. Even though I did it for so many years, I never nailed down the right way to process that emotion until, obviously like my adult years. It's a lot easier now, but yeah, it was so traumatizing for me. And then I lashed out on y'all, I know, a lot too, because I didn't know how to handle those emotions. I was also pushing y'all away because I didn't know how to almost like interact with you both at the same time, because my brain was still over there, like my mind was still over there. And it was so hard to almost come to the realization that I had to do that. Like I have to be almost kind of separated from two households that I really love, knowing that I won't be at my mom's for a really long time was just so traumatizing for me. And I never knew how to healthily or
how to process it.
Yeah, how to process that. So
you've even said as an adult that just the two homes and lifestyles are so different, not necessarily wrong, bad, whatever, but they're so different from each other that it still takes you that mental, like, okay, I'm not there anymore, now I'm here. And like even your personalities are different when you're in one place than the other.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it is. And I think that happens a lot when you're a kid in divorce. Is like you almost, dependent upon the household that you're in and how they are operating things, you do kind of get split personalities, because you operate one way at one household, and then in my situation, my other household is completely different, like the complete opposite. So you almost have to adapt to your surroundings, like in a way. And it's more intense as a kid, I feel like, too, because you're having to adapt because you want your parent to love you. You want your parent to accept you and have the most time with you, the most fun with you, things like that, because deep down inside, through divorce as a kid, you feel unloved. Like it just comes with it. Like, and it's not that it's the parents' fault or anything like that. It's not that they're not making you feel that way. It's just you feel like you have to choose between two different people at the same time, and so you want both of their approval, you want to interact with both of them at the same time, so you kind of adapt. I know I definitely adapted to the different households, and it did come with a different personality, because it was two different personalities in the household. So yeah, I don't know if that.
Yeah, no, I can definitely, I can definitely see that. And, any household is going to be different. You could take any household out there and compare them. And even the ones that are maybe have the same beliefs, the same thoughts, the same ways of doing things, are still going to operate different, because there's different personalities in that household and a little different dynamics. So, most of the time, that's not the dynamics. They're a lot more different than just being super close different. So that really would, I could see that being having to adapt to two different types of personalities. And then, like you said, you felt unloved, you felt unaccepted. And the crazy thing is neither me or your mom ever told you different, we were always telling you we love you and stuff. And that's just kind of a natural thing that you feel as a kid then. And I'm sure probably, at the beginning, I know it's a lot harder in co-parenting, because you're trying to figure out co-parenting, how all that looks, because there's still so many disagreements and so many different viewpoints on the way we want to parent our child, you know, and a lot of that is what led to divorce, right? And to where we're not together. So we do have a lot of differences. So I'm sure if we're fussing and fighting and arguing with each other all the time, you're already feeling that way. I'm sure that just adds fuel to the fire, right?
Yeah. Well, I had this thought too, and it's almost like the transition was amplified because in a way I felt like I was abandoned by my mom, even though that feeling was false.
Sure, yeah.
I grabbed for her attention so much because I didn't have her. So I felt abandoned by her, so I chased her so much. And then coming back, I also had a little bit resentment towards you because I felt like you're the person taking me away from her.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't know how to process that as a kid, it makes sense now because I really would push you away. Like, I would push both of y'all away, honestly. Like, you know, and I would be sad for a week or so. It really took a toll on me. But coming to that realization now, it's almost like, you know, I'm having that aha moment of that's the root why.
Yeah.
So
kind of why you were going through all the hardships and the mental fatigue, the depressive type thoughts or state that you would go through.
When I think as parents, we get wrapped up in how it affects us.
Yeah.
And we're not thinking about how much it affects, because like being on my end, and it's like you're coming in and then I'm the target of the person you're ignoring. And it's like, well, all about me. Like, you know, this isn't fair. This isn't right. She shouldn't be mean to me. I'm only doing this. And I know brought me a little bit of comfort when y'all would tell me that she did that to your mom before I came in the picture.
Yeah.
Your mom was the target and the one that she would ignore because that was the female figure in your life that was like replacing your mom in a sense. And then when it was you living with us, then I became that person. And so as stepmoms, we can get so focused on this isn't right, this, you know, and begin to get upset and want to make the child change. But the child is just going through so many different emotions in that time. And again, we keep saying it over and over, but to be able to put ourselves in their shoes and to be empathetic in that way and not take it personal and say like, okay, how this affects me so much, we need to change it. But like, how can we make this better? How can we help our child see that it's okay to love both parents? Like there's enough love that someone doesn't have to be wrong in the process. Because just our whole conversation as we're talking about two different households doing things two different ways, Brandon and I have two different ways of doing things. Yeah. And we love each other, you know, a lot. We live together, you know, because we're married.
No way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Bubble burst. We live together.
And we're married. But we have such different personalities and characteristics in the way we do things. But because we love each other and our end goal is to be married and stay together, we see past some of those things. But when it comes to those, so it's not... We try to remind ourselves and you guys, like, different doesn't mean wrong. Yeah. And so when we're saying this, like, two different households, it's not that the other person is wrong. It's just it's different. And the child is having to bounce from these two completely different things. I know even work, when I have two different jobs that I do, like, my brain has a hard time of, like, I'm so into this, but I also love this. And so trying to shut this off to be able to focus on this thing, it's a lot for my adult brain. And we're talking about a child's brain that hasn't been fully developed yet.
Well, it's hard, like, you come to think about it, and almost, like, from a kid's view, it's like, if you love one parent, you feel like you're betraying the other one. And so it's kind of that, like, bounce back and forth, like, if I show this parent love, will my other parent think that I don't? You know, well, my other parent abandoned me almost because I don't show them. It's like a constant pull, you know. You're in the middle, you're dealing with all these emotions, and then here comes, you know, a step family on top of that, and you don't, as a kid, even know how to process your own direct family. So then trying to accept someone else into it is also another, like, bubble of you just don't know what's going on. It's just so overwhelming. So,
yeah. Man. So yeah, what are some things that you think as a parent would have helped you then?
I think, well, I've talked about this before. I think maybe sitting down with the child and having them write out what they're feeling, find some way for them to express or get out their feelings, things like that. It doesn't have to look like writing. Maybe it's painting, maybe it's even a sport or something like that, to where they can release that tension that they're feeling, and also in a way that you as a parent can receive it and understand it and process it and figure out a way on your own to address the situation in a positive, uplifting manner. Because if you think about it, if you come to your stepchild who is dealing with all of this trauma, it may not look like it from the outside. It may look like they're just being a brat or they're just being rude for no reason. They have a complete valid reason, but they're just expressing it in a negative way. If you come to them and love and patience and things like that, and it's like, hey, I'm really honestly trying to understand where you're coming from, and they write that out or paint it out, or now they have like those break rooms or whatever. You can go like get your anger out.
Smash rooms.
Yeah, smash rooms, whatever. Then, y'all can process that together, one step at a time. You don't have to, no pressure to figure it all out in that one moment. But as long as you're kind of, as a parent, actively making that step, slowly, and just making sure that you're doing it in love and in patience, because even though they may be talking a big game, barking really loud, they're honestly very sensitive and hurt and damaged on the inside.
And letting you know it's okay to feel those feelings.
Yeah,
It's not, or trying to say, well, you shouldn't feel that way because that's not true. Well, that's how you feel. So letting you know. And then again, just because from the stepmom's perspective, not taking it personal.
Yeah.
Not taking it as a personal hit on yourself.
Feeling like you have to defend yourself, like if they're expressing their feelings and then you're coming up on the defense. Well, but it's because of this. So it's really just shut up and listen.
Just listen. You don't even have to solve the problem. I think that's what scares us, is because we can't solve it. We can't fix it. Your dad can't go get married to your mom again and just make everything okay.
Yeah.
It's like, and you want to be able to fix it so much, but sometimes it's just listening and hugging and crying it out and saying, I know it sucks. This does suck.
So it's acknowledging the feelings, calling it out, talking about it, doing it in a positive way, getting creative to where maybe it's not just talking, but it's some type of illustrated, fun format. But really just calling it out and doing it in love and patience, and knowing you don't have to have the answer right there, but that they're not alone, that you're walking it through with them, and you're all trying to figure it out together. So man, good stuff. All right, so I got another question, but we're going to go to a quick break. So we'll be back in just a minute.
Blended families can be hard at times, can't they? Have you ever said, I don't feel like me and my spouse are connecting? Or I'm bending over backwards and my stepkid still pushes me away? Or do you feel like your family's doing okay, but you'd like it to be more than okay? You want your family to level up, take it to an even stronger level.
The truth is, we're all looking for more joy and happiness in our lives. So how do we start seeing that in our blended family? Because really, our family is the first place we should truly be enjoying and having the most fun with. So how do you enjoy your blended family? You create more fun opportunities that your family loves doing. These are big things, they're small things, things that cost money, things that don't cost money. But the more fun you have together, the less blended family drama you'll have, which equals more joy and happiness for everyone. Now, you may be saying, yeah, but I don't know how to do that. I don't even know where to start. That's okay. We walk you through 5 fun dates you get to have with your family. These dates help you discover those fun things your family loves doing. You'll walk away with so many more great ideas and have an amazing, easy plan to make it happen and to keep it going. Plus, you get to have a lot of fun discovering all this in the process. We walk you through everything and make it really fun and easy.
So how do you enjoy your blended family? By going on these 5 dates and discovering fun in your step family. You'll be so glad you did. Have more fun together and you'll see less problems. The link to get started on this amazing journey is in the show notes of this episode.
All right, so let me ask you this question. So this one is...
and another one.
And another one. Here we go. That's good stuff. I mean, I'm like... So we're not even... I don't think we're going to get through all these questions. We're going to have to do a part two on this.
Part two.
Because there's a lot of good stuff to come. But let me ask you this last question for this one. Okay, so... what was your idea for like a best case scenario? Did you ever
like have a fantasy what you wished it would be? Like when you would retreat in your own mind of like
like your family, like
yes.
Okay. Where was your happy place? Like Happy Gilmore. Go to your happy place.
Oh, my happy place.
Well, and This Is Us, Randall, I don't know if you watch This Is Us, but Randall, which was adopted into this family of 3 kids, he had this like fake family that he envisioned was his real family. And I mean, they would come and they're all sitting at the breakfast table together, and he was the only black kid in an all-white family. So in his fantasy world, he had 2 African-American parents, and you know, they understood his culture and his problems. Like, so he had this world that he created from his biological parents that he had never met. So was there like this fantasy place that you would go to of like your happy place when it came to your parents or what your family would look like?
I mean, heck yeah. I mean, like us.
I had multiple. I mean, I live in a fantasy world.
I mean, I think my dream or my fantasy is pretty typical as a child of divorce, was to have your parents back together. And, you know, you always have this dream that they would be happy and y'all would be a happy family. You wouldn't have to be split anymore. You wouldn't have to be torn anymore. You'd be whole. And then I had siblings on my mom's side, so then I had this fantasy that we'd all be together and, you know, like all problems would be solved. Now, in reality, that would be a horrible idea. But, yeah, that was 100%. You
was
know,
I in your new fantasy world?
I mean, what do you think?
So it wasn't like we were doing the sister wives or anything, and we were all living in one happy house.
Not at all. You were outside.
She's moving your picture to where you weren't in it.
Well, because I know that there was a place when I was younger, and I came from a dysfunctional, like physical violence, alcohol abuse growing up. But even when my mom and dad separated, that I would have these envisionments of my mom and my dad getting back together, knowing full well that them together was a horrible combination. But in my preteen mind, I still wanted that to happen. But there did become a flip in my mind eventually where I realized like that would be an awful thing to happen. But especially when you start to see your parents get along. I mean, it's one thing, your parents are fighting and you're like, oh man,
it's not going to work. It's never going to work.
Yeah. But when you see parents getting along and co-parenting well, it's like, why wouldn't you? Who cares that they're remarried and have multiple children already by different people?
Yeah, they're already remarried and things like that now. Yeah, that was it. That was the one. Thankful to God that you stuck around.
Was it ever like that your dad moved back to Alabama? Like, did your mind ever picture this enough that you were playing out like real life scenarios? Or was it just kind of like this thought in the back of your head?
I think it was just like a thought back in the back of my head. I mean, ideally as a kid, I would have wanted to move back to Alabama because that's where, at the time, the majority of my, that's where all my siblings were and everything like that. And I highly valued those relationships with them and that time with them, you know. So ideally, I would have moved to Alabama and we would have been a happy, whatever. Dysfunctional. I'm like picturing it in my head now. That would totally not work at all. But
because your brothers are still from another dad, so there's really no way to really have, you know, it still would have been a blended family.
Oh yeah,
it would have been
1,000%. So yeah. But yeah, I'm glad the latter. You know,
and I think that's typical for any child in a blended family. And I can think back to whenever my parents divorced, and I was older. I was 15, I think, when they divorced. And at that time, I think as a teenager, kind of experiencing that, you're already kind of pulling away anyway. I found more freedom because I could play the sides easier. I was already kind of in that mentality to where my friends were more important than my family. That's what you do as a teenager. You have this fantasy vision of that. And so, I didn't really experience that. But we hear that all the time. We hear that of... that's the number one thing that they want their parents to get back together. It's just going to work out. They're going to be a happy family again. There's not going to be any more separation. I want both my biological mom and biological dad living under the same roof because that's going to be good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a kid's perspective, it's genius. Like, if you think about it, you think of the parent trap. Like, you try to, go ahead
a new girl, and she's always trying to parent.
Yeah, she is. But yeah, it's genius from a kid. You solve the problem of being split in half and things like that. So, kudos to 8-year-old me, but I'm glad it
Is there any way that as parents we can help maybe ease that fantasy a little bit? And I don't know. I mean, maybe there is, maybe there isn't.
I mean, I don't think there's anything you can do to ease it because
it's just gonna be.
It's already there. It's left the train station. It's already in action. But I mean, I think there's things that especially like when y'all got married and things like that. Like maybe we could have spent more intentional time. Better blending, things like that. Spending more time doing family activities and things like that to kind of help ease the transition, to help the kid realize like, well, this is my life. This is my reality. So I need to come up off the cloud, And
I am a part of this family.
Yeah, and I belong. I'm a part of it and things like that. So maybe just, which is all stuff we've been talking about. So,
Because in your mind, and just, I know we're going to wrap this up and bring the conversation again in a part 2. But in your mind, when you were in our house, you were the only one that didn't belong. Like in your head, you were the odd man out because Devin, Riley, me, and now your dad brought into this family with us. You were the outsider, which really you could probably play that scenario with each one of the kids, right? Like everybody could have
they each felt that way.
Their own little piece of that, but you only are in your head, living your life. So you feel like a complete outsider, I don't belong in this situation because that's her kids, that's her husband, and I'm not.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good point. It definitely does feel like that. It felt like that for me because I was the only one at the time who actually had to leave, out of state. I don't think.
Oh, that's true.
My stepbrother and stepsister, they were pretty much there all the time, So I was pretty much the only one who left, and so in the summers and things, y'all did things, and I didn't really feel like I was a part of either, honestly. Like I just felt like I was just kind of a floater because I'd be here sometimes, I'd be there sometimes, and I never really took the time to connect. But looking back at it now, I wish to God I would have just because I also pushed Riley and Devin away because of that. Like I pushed them away because they had a mom there, and little Riley especially because that mother-daughter bond or whatever. But I wish little 8-year-old Riley would have sympathized with them almost and been like, look, I know you have another parent too that you have to deal with the abandonment, and more like
kind of could have connected on that.
Yeah, I could have connected with them and
pushed each other away from it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Oh man, that's good stuff. Okay, so listen, we're gonna wrap that up here, but we do have a few other questions We're going to talk about some things, some sucky moments that you had. We're going to talk about some revelations that you have looking back. Because, man, those are always powerful whenever, we can realize some things that we were going through and call those out. And then, we got a special story that we're going to share as well. Yeah. So, man, it's going to be good. We couldn't put it all in this episode, so sorry. We tried.
I talked to back next week.
We tried. No, I was kind of hoping it'd go this way because it's so good. It really is so good. So much value that is in this. And just from us being able to communicate and talk, especially now, so good. Yeah. And I know it just brings healing, even more healing for us as a family. And a lot more for everyone listening. For you as the listener, you're getting to kind of dive into this and say, you know what, my kids, my stepkids, my biological kids, these are some of the things that they're struggling with and that they're thinking that you may not even think that they're thinking,
Mm-hmm.
So these are some things to where you can start looking at in your own family and saying, hey, let's look at this in a different route. Let's really call this out, start talking a little more, and just be there in a different way so that we can bring more healing whenever maybe they don't feel like they belong.
Yeah.
So, good stuff. So listen, all the B-Fams out there, we love you, and we will see you on the next episode. Later.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has been a blessing and encouraged your family journey.
Make sure you stay connected with us and join our weekly Blended Family newsletter. We send an email out every Friday morning full of support and encouragement.
And when you join, we also want to give you a free gift, so go get yours today. The link is in the show notes below.
Have an amazing day. Remember to enjoy the journey with your blended family, and we'll see you on the next episode.